Hey guys, Ron from Living Retired. Third time, talked a lot, went in too much detail. I'm trying to make this shorter. Okay, to make a long story short, what I got working on, did a little modifying. You never think, when you think you're complete, it's never complete. We got cables over here. The reason why, these were my old ones, and they are 8 gauge. I've got 89 rounded off. It was 89.6, rounded off to 90, basically 90 amps on my batteries. On the chart, it required for 90 amps, you need 4 gauge wire. If you have too thin of wire, too small, with the current that's being drawn through, and current, when AC is involved or what, it doesn't flow smooth like just regular full DC current. It gets a little jumpy, it jerks. And that jerking, you can't feel it in the cable, but that jerking can create resistance, and if you got too small a cable, it creates a hot cable, which can lead to a fire in the worst scenario. The chart said I needed 4 gauge, but I done better than that. I did 2 gauge. And I made my own cables, got my stuff from Amazon, got my lugs, and with them came the shrink tape. You see, what's that red streak? Is that a positive? No. My positive on the bottom. What I did with my connectors, I turned them up for the negative, and I turned them down for the positive. The reason why, to try to keep the cables away from each other. So my cable, my positive, are running low on the floor. My negative are looped up and going from battery to battery, as you can see. I thought that was better. Reason why this has got a red streak, 6 foot of 2 gauge cable for solar applications, going to run you about 30 something bucks. I found a jumper set of 2 gauge 20 foot for the same price it had cost for 6 foot of 2 gauge for a solar application. So yep, that's what I did. I chopped her up. I went with 10-inch sections because I measured that's about what I need for my batteries, and that's what I did. So I made thicker cables so I have less resistance, less chance of any kind of overheating. I still left the positive, the 8 gauge positive that's going up to the buzz bar. All this is supplying is for the solar controllers. Yes, they are vital, but they don't need a whole lot of power. There's power coming out, but when it's going through, it's not as strong. I still may. Okay, the dogs are going crazy. I still may go ahead and change that out, even though that's where the power is coming in from the cables, from the solar chargers and stuff, from the panels. Still, it's hitting the rest of the power, so that may be a cable that I am going to change out for a 2 gauge. I'll probably feel better. My ground is still with the original 8. The ground might be okay, but if I have enough lugs, if I can find 2 more lugs, I might go ahead and change it out. So those are 2 future changes that I will make. When you're working on systems like this, first, please wear rubber gloves. Don't get your hands in stuff, and sometimes your skin can be a little conductive, and the last thing you need is to be working on this stuff and you have an arc. It's not the volts, it's not the watts that's kill you, it's the amps. And like in my system, I've got enough amps in here to take me out. I have to really be careful. One of the bad things trying to do a video out in the yard. But always wear gloves. And when you're working with your cable systems, whether you're taking cables off of your solar battery bank or even off of your car or truck, when you're taking cables off, always take the negative off first. And then take the positive. And when you're putting cables back on, do the opposite. Put the red on first, then put the black. Reason why your negative cables, they complete the circuit. They ground out everything. If you took your hot off first, you would get a spark, a bite, or it could be worse. Sometimes explosions can happen. So when you're taking it off, black first, then take your red. When you're putting them on, put the red on first, then your black. That way you don't have no spark and you don't get bit. But when you're working on this, use gloves, please. Just good prevention. But that's what we've done here today. Just thicker cables. Kind of changed out the design a little bit, the placement, keeping cables away from each other. I did go ahead, and I didn't do it before, but I grounded out my inverter. You only want one ground point. If you have two, you're going to have a ground loop, and sometimes that can create a little issue. So it's going to my buzz bar. My buzz bar has got a small green one going out, and I'm going out to a grounding rod. And it's probably about 4.5 feet in the ground, and it's coming up to the deck. And the top of it, I got it clamped off, and I put a little rubber cap thing on top and siliconed it just to keep moisture from going down. My inverter is a modified sine wave, an MSW. I thought it was a pure sine wave, but nah. Some people don't like the MSWs because sometimes they say the power and everything, the current gets a little jumpy, a little choppy. I haven't had no trouble, and it's running everything great. But it's only 2,000 watts with 4,000 surge. I wished it was bigger in a way, but if I was going to use a lot of power, then I want a bigger inverter. If I'm not going to be using that much power all the time, then I think the 2,000 was enough. As I had stated before, my office is its own off-grid power. Everything in my office now, and I have extended, and my living room, my TV entertainment center now is working on this too. I'm hoping that's gonna knock off $1 or $2 of my electric bill. That would really be nice. Doing some calculation with the amount of capacitance I have in this, I can the batteries and everything, I can store up to 6,408 watts. But my inverter, as I said, will only run push out 2,000 max. There are a few items I have seen that along with everything, if need be, I can run in my refrigerator, I can run my freezer out in the garage. It has a bigger capability than I thought. But running a lot of that stuff, that would only probably be in the daylight when I've got good sun running my solar panels. But in an emergency, you know, naturally there would be a few things that would get turned off just to maximize the length of the power, you know, to run something. But that's what I done. I changed out my cables, went with thicker, so I don't have any kind of issues. Trying to be very, very careful. You don't want to get distracted when doing this stuff, folks. Okay. So a tip, like I said, when you're doing solar battery bank systems, to match up your cable thickness according to the amperage on your on your battery. If you're now for 4 gauge, it from 89, 90 up to 100 watts, 100 amp hours I meant. It required a 4 gauge, but there's nothing wrong with going with larger cables. So it just gives you a little bit extra protection. I think we've done pretty good. So far, so good. You're never through and never fully completed on a system like this, because you always get thinking, I want to do this or do that, change this out. You know, as long as it doesn't interfere, it doesn't present a problem, and it works, then go for it. Make improvements. That's how you learn. Okay, we're gonna get this stuff cleaned up and get inside and start turning some things on and find something to eat. Y'all have a blessed day. And Joanne, she does send her regards that she's not here to wave at you. Usually when I'm doing my videos, she is resting. She does do that a lot. But again, keep her in prayers. Poor girl, she's been through a lot. We all have. And but y'all have a good night. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. And any more improvements, anything I think that could be helpful, I'll pass them on to you. But again, when you get working with power, with cables and current, glove it up, folks. I don't know if I showed, that was what I used to crimp my cables. These things work really, really well. Everything came in today from Amazon. My lugs and this crimper. So it made some really nice cables. Those little ones there, I had to do it with pliers and crushing and everything else. But that did real good. Okay. Y'all be careful. And wherever you're at in this country, stay warm. Mostly stay safe. Stay prepared. Stay awake. Stay aware. And no matter what people think of you, hey, nothing wrong preparing. Not only for power, but for other things to take care of your family. Stock up, folks. Things are getting a little crazy. We will see you again. I'm going to shut up now. All right, y'all have a blessed night. Living retired. We are gone. Bye-bye.